Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jackie and this is Jackie's Beat. Today's video is going to be a everyday routine that I do. This is not going to be a super quick on the go type of routine if you're really pressed for time, but it's also not a full glam with like contouring like a wedding or something like that. This is my full face routine that I use to just keep my skin kind of glowing but nothing crazy. It's pretty basic. It doesn't really require any crazy techniques or anything like that, and I did try to incorporate some drugstore and more affordable products in there, but feel free to use whatever products you know works for you. Please, if you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up at the end, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can see all of the different videos that I'll be posting in the future. As you can see, I do not have anything on my face right now. I have absolutely no makeup on, so I always begin by making sure that my face is clean and moisturized. That's going to be the most important step to making sure that your skin looks flawless and that your makeup goes on perfectly. So you always want to make sure that your skin is clean and that it's moisturized. And if you are going to be applying any products with your fingers, make sure that your hands are clean as well. All right, so let's get started. The first step is going to be getting your face primed and ready. Now, depending on the type of skin you have, you may use different primers. If you have oily skin like I do, I highly recommend this primer, if you can see that on the camera. This is by Benefit. It is the Professional Matte Rescue Priming Gel. So this primer comes out like a gel, if you can see that. And this primer is really amazing for someone like me who gets really oily in the T-zone. It's very hard for me to apply my foundation to my nose area because it gets very oily, especially in the summer, and especially if I'm using a full coverage foundation. So I always like to use a mattifying primer to start, so that way this foundation stays locked in place, and if I sweat or if it gets oily in my T-zone, it doesn't move or break up the foundation. So we're gonna start by taking just like a dab of this priming gel, and I'm gonna be rubbing it all over the face. I'm making sure that we really get it in to this area in the T-zone where I have a tendency to get especially oily. So you just want to make sure that that product is nice and soaked into the skin. I always like to pat any product that I apply with my fingers. I always like to kind of massage it in until it's just about dry, and then pat it into the skin to make sure that the skin is really soaking up that product. Our face is all primed and ready to go. Now we're going to go ahead and start in with our foundation. The foundation I'm going to be using today, the Dior Skin Forever Foundation Fluid. This is what it looks like. This is my absolute favorite foundation right now. It is a pretty full coverage foundation, which I like because I like to blur out the freckles on my face, and I feel like it doesn't totally clog my pores and it doesn't make me super oily, and it's hard for me to find a good full coverage foundation that, again, keeps me kind of dry in my T-zone area. Alright, so I'm going to start out by taking 2 pumps of this foundation, and I'm going to put it right on the back of my hand. Maybe just a little bit more, 2.5 pumps, because I do like that pretty full coverage. And we're going to go ahead and just dot that on the face in a couple of spots, mostly on the cheek first. I like to do sections of my face at a time because I feel like it helps the foundation blend before it really starts to dry out. So I'll do like this cheek, and then I'll do this cheek, then I'll go in the middle area of the T-zone and up to my forehead. And we're going to take a damp beauty blender. You want to always make sure that your beauty blender is wet before you start using it. I know that that sounds like a given, but I have had friends that have actually used beauty blenders and been like, I don't understand what the big fuss is, this thing sucks. And I'm like, well, did you wet it? And they say no. So you definitely want to make sure that your beauty blender is damp so that it expands to its biggest size, and then just squeeze out all the excess water and dry it out a little bit on a paper towel. And now we're just going to go ahead and pounce lightly. Okay, so now that we have our foundation on and set, we are going to go in with our concealer. I'm using the NARS Radiant Cream Concealer today. I'm going to use this to conceal any spots, any pimples, and I'm also going to use it for highlighting and brightening my under eyes, as well as other high points of the face. This one's a bit on the pricey side, so if you're looking for something from a drugstore, that's totally fine. Whatever concealer you use is going to work just fine. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to take our concealer, and I'm going to do one swipe right under the eye on each side. And then we're going to go in and we're going to do a little bit right up on the top in the center of the forehead. A little X right down here. A little touch on the Cupid's bow. And then whatever product is left on the wand, I'm going to use to very, very lightly go right down the center of my nose, because my nose is a little bit wide and I do like to make it look a little bit slimmer. So just a tiny bit, just like that. It's not a step that everybody has to take. I just personally like a brighter under eye, and you don't really have to go over the rest of these, but if you do have dark circles or anything like that, you're going to want to conceal the under eye. I have one little spot right here, so I'm just going to dot some concealer on that, and now we are ready to buff that out. We're done with concealer. The next thing that I'm going to do is a step that you absolutely can skip. I told you this video wasn't going to be all about contouring or anything like that. I'm just going to do a very, very quick contour on my nose. This is a little bit wide and I like to give it the illusion of being a little bit slimmer. So I'm just going to take my MAC Studio Quick Trick Stick. This is in the color Bare End and Earth Nut. So on one side it's a cream highlight, which we'll be using in a few minutes. And on the other side, it's like a bronzy kind of contourish color. Just gonna do one quick little swoop down each side of the nose, right kind of next to where we did on each side of the little tiny bit of highlight that we did down the center of the nose. And then I'm gonna go over that center strip with the highlight end of the stick. It doesn't have to be very perfect. It doesn't have to be very precise. I'm just going to go in and blend that out. Okay. Now, the last thing that we're going to do as far as cream or liquid products go is I'm going to go in again with that Studio Quick Trick, and I'm going to use the little highlighter end, and I'm just going to dot it on the high points of my cheekbones, because we're going to want a little extra glow over there. There is going to be powder going over this, but you want to make sure that you're always using all of your cream and liquid products first before you start going in with powders, because if you start setting the face with powder and then try to go over it with this highlight cream or any kind of liquid product, it's just going to cake up with all of the powder that's on there, and it's going to be a hot mess. So you want to make sure you do all of your liquids and creams first, and then we can move on to powders to set. Use a liquid or a cream highlight underneath a powder highlight. Your highlight is going to be poppin', and you know that's what I like. So I'm just going to blend it out a little bit with my fingers, and now we're ready to set the face. Now I'm going to go in with my very, very trusty Laura Mercier setting powder. This setting powder is my absolute favorite, but if you're looking for like a good dupe or a cheaper alternative, or people rave about the RCMA powder, which you can order on Amazon, I think it's like 10 bucks, or the Coty Airspun powder, you get it at Walmart. I think it's only a few bucks, like under 10 for that. So what we're gonna do is you can actually use your damp beauty sponge to set your face. So what I like to do is just shake out a little bit of the product into the cap. And then you're going to take your damp beauty sponge, pick it up, and you're just going to pack it right on all those areas that you concealed. I like to use the damp beauty sponge because I feel like it helps just kind of melt the powder right into the areas that you're putting it. And you want to make sure that you're really just pressing the powder in. You don't want to swipe, you don't want to drag, you don't want to move it, because if you move it, it's defeating the purpose. The whole purpose of this powder is that it's going to set that makeup into place and it's going to kind of melt it into your skin. So you want to make sure that you're just pressing it down so that you're not dragging the product, you're just setting it in place. And you can go a little extra on the powder, like if you have an area that you know gets oily. So I'm gonna go super heavy right around my nose because like I said, I know that my T-zone gets super oily, and this will help set it so that it doesn't. And you're gonna go kind of all the way up the side of the nose and down. And again, we're just pressing the powder in there. So you really want to make sure that you have everything settled. I know that I look ridiculous right now, kind of like a ghost, but we're going to go in and we're just going to keep setting all those areas. And if you go too heavy on the powder, that's totally fine. Whatever powder is there will settle into your skin, and then you can just kind of wipe it away with a big fluffy brush at the end if there's excess. So again, I'm just setting all of those areas that I highlighted with the concealer. Now that we have set, we're just going to let that kind of sit and bake for a few minutes. And as that's setting, we're going to move on to our other powder product. The next thing we're going to go in with is our bronzer. I do like to do my bronzer kind of while the powder's still on my face, because any powder that gets flicked away is just excess powder anyway, which is going to be gone. So I like to just do my bronzing and warm up my face while the powder is kind of setting in and doing its work. So I'm going to be going in with the Tarte Park Avenue Princess Bronzer. As you can see, this is a very well-loved bronzer by me. We're going to go in with a Morphe M527 brush. So we're just going to bronze up the sides of the face. We're going to go all up in here, get nice and tan looking. We're going to go up by our temples. You always want to shake out any excess product before you go in, because again, it's going to be a lot easier to add product and build up than it is to take product away. So we just want to make sure we're nice and bronzed up over here on the temples and in the hollows of the cheek. Okay, now that we have finished with our bronzer, I'm going to go ahead and take a big fluffy brush to get rid of any excess powder. We're going to go in with a Morphe E41, and I'm just going to wipe away any of this excess baking powder kind of stuff that we have going on. Wiped away most of the excess powder, as you can see. We're going to make sure though that we have the entire face set, so I'm just going to go back in with that same fluffy brush, the Morphe E41, take a little tiny bit of setting powder and just pack it right onto the nose there to make sure that all areas of the face that had liquid or cream products on them are definitely set, so that that makeup is not going to be moving anywhere. Alright, next thing we're going to do is go in with our blush. I'm going to be using the Baked Blush by Milani. This is a great drugstore blush. It cost, I think, like $8 or $9. It's in the color Luminoso. This is an excellent dupe for the NARS Orgasm blush. So we're just going to tap off the excess. I'm using a Morphe E4 brush. This is like an angled kind of, this is probably more meant for contouring, but I really like using this brush for blush. It just gives me like a nice perfect, and we're just gonna smile and get it right on the apples of the cheeks there and kind of bring it up. I like to bring my blush up and back from the apples when there's not really much product left on the brush. Just kind of sweep it up and back, because you don't want to bring it too far down on the face, otherwise it's going to get in the way with those hollowed out looking cheekbones. Just gonna add a little bit of life to our face. Now that we're done with blush, we're going to move on to highlight. Today I'm going to be using the Becca highlight in the color Champagne Pop. If you follow me on Instagram, again, you would know I absolutely love this highlight. I use it all the time. And we're just going to hit those high points of the cheekbones where we got that cream highlight first. I'm using a Morphe M532 brush. This is like a great little highlighter brush. It gets really precise placement. But again, with the highlight, you don't need to be super precise. I like to keep it more on like the highest points of my cheekbones and not bring it too far down. But if you want, you can kind of take whatever excess product is there and just drag it up here a little bit. Just a little bit like above the brow bone. But nothing too crazy. So you can see that nice little glow that we have. I'm gonna take a tiny little bit of product, hit the tip of the nose, a little bit on the Cupid's bow there, a little bit on the chin if you feel like it. And last but not least, I'm gonna take my finger and take the slightest little bit on the tip of my finger, and we're just gonna run it up and down the bridge of the nose, right in the center. And then blend it out a little bit with the brush, because that again is gonna help make the nose look a little bit on the more snatched up side, so it's gonna look a little narrower. I'm gonna show you guys what I like to do for setting my face, because as you can tell, after you put all the baking powder and everything on with the setting powder, and you have all these cream products that make your skin look so luminous, and then you cover them all up with powder, and it just makes your, especially with the setting powder, it has a tendency to make your face look super powdery. So a little trick that you can do is you can take your setting spray. If you like a more dewy look, the MAC Fix Plus is a really great setting spray. You can also use the Tatcha Dewy Mist Spray, but that's extremely expensive. I think a good dupe for that is the NYX Dewy Setting Spray. But whatever setting spray you prefer, you're gonna go ahead and find a clean spot on your damp beauty blender. You're gonna spray the setting spray onto your face. And then as it settles into the skin, you can start to see it like settling in a little bit. You're gonna use your beauty blender to just press it into place, and it's gonna give your skin that nice dewy glow back that you may have been missing out on from all the powder. You can even spray the beauty blender with the Fix Plus or whatever setting spray you're using. I like to use the Fix Plus first to get my skin looking a little bit glowy and dewy again so that it's not so powdery looking. And then I like to go in finally to really set my face with this Urban Decay De-Slick Matte Setting Spray. This is really good for oil control. It helps keep my skin from getting too oily again in my T-zone where I have problems. So sometimes when I use any kind of dewy skin mist or Fix Plus on my face, it makes me look a little bit oily by the end of the night. So I like to go over and really lock everything into place with this Urban Decay De-Slick Makeup Setting Spray. So we're going to just spritz a little bit of that. Let it set in. Again, as it's setting in, you can use your beauty blender to just try and kind of like press it into place. And that concludes today's video. So this is my full face kind of everyday routine. It's not like a quickie on the go routine, but it's definitely not a full face, full glam. It doesn't take a ton of technique. Again, the products that I used, a lot of them were high end. I did try to add in some drugstore products there, or at least give you some drugstore dupes that you could use for any of these products. I will link all of the products down below. If you guys like this video, or if you want to see more videos like this one, please leave it in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I will see you guys in my next video.